So making miniature cupcakes out of polymer clay is a lot easier than what you would think. So first we're going to be starting with clay, obviously, but we're also going to be using an X-Acto knife to cut it, a toothbrush to add texture, a paint palette, as well as some liquid clay, and then paint brushes, and finally pastel chalk to add some detailing. So let's get started. So we're going to be making vanilla and chocolate cupcakes. So I have this beige yellow clay that we're going to be starting with for the vanilla. We're going to roll it out into a thin log and then cut it down to size. I'm making these cupcakes in 1/24 size, so mine are going to be pretty small. Now that the vanilla is done, we can get started on the chocolate. Again, we're just going to roll it into a thin log and then cut it down to size. I cut the chunks into a little bit bigger of a size than what I planned because we're going to squish them down. You can squish them down onto the wax paper or do it in your hand, whatever works better. I kind of do a combo of both. Once all the cupcake bases are made, we're going to start adding the ridges with the back of an X-Acto knife. Since I'm not using a mold, we're going to use the X-Acto knife to form the lines that a cupcake liner would make. Here's what it's looking like, just slight lines in the base to make it look like we have a cupcake liner on. Now all the cupcake bases are done. Here's what they're looking like. Next, we're going to get started on the cupcake tops. So for this, we're going to roll out a small ball and then squish it down into a circle shape. Once you have the circle formed, you can add it to the top of the cupcake base. There we go. Now the base of our cupcakes are done. Next, we're going to add some texture using the toothbrush. We're just going to tap the bristles into the top of the cupcakes to make it look more like actual cupcakes. You can leave the cupcakes like this, or you can add a little bit of detailing using pastel chalk to add a little bit of color around the edges of the vanilla cupcake. This isn't necessary, I just think it adds a little bit more realism, but you can leave it either way. Now that we've toasted our vanilla cupcakes, it's time to add frosting. So I'm making St. Patrick's Day and Valentine's Day cupcakes for my miniature set. So we're using red and green clay along with white clay for the frosting. You're just going to pinch off a tiny little bit, and then we'll be adding liquid clay to make it look more like frosting. This is what the frosting is looking like after it's mixed. You can add more or less liquid clay to give it a smoother look, or you can leave it more chunky. The green frosting isn't as smooth as what I would hope, so we're gonna have to mix it a little bit more. There we go, that's a little bit better. Now I think I want to add some sprinkles, so I'm going to roll out a thin log of this red and cut off tiny little chunks to make fake sprinkles for our cupcakes. I'm going to add red to a couple of the white cupcakes and maybe one or two of the red for our Valentine's Day cupcakes. And then I'm going to roll out some green and add some green sprinkles as well for St. Patrick's Day. Now to finish these cupcakes off, we're going to take some of this white chalk pastel and we're going to brush it along the edges of the ridges that we created on the base of the cupcakes to fake the wax paper that will be on the cupcake liners. This isn't required, but I think just makes it look nice. This is a quick look at our cupcakes before I pop them in the oven. And here what our cupcakes turned out like. This process was pretty easy. This was my second time making them. If you want to see my first attempt, here they are. So I think these cupcakes are great for beginners. But thanks for joining me and let me know what you want us to make next.